Yes, I'm gonna meet sales. This is my day. You know, it just wasn't my thing. I have been fired. I have been downsized, restructured. Strength Bank. Doing what you love to do. Every person in this room came with a given bank of strength.
She is an internationally known speaker, educator, entrepreneur, and the voice of the single professional. The creator of the revolutionary concept, Strength Bank. Here is Sandra Shelton.
Is there anybody in this room who would not like to have more faith in themselves, more hope for the future, or more love in all the relationships around them? Raise your hand if there's anyone that doesn't want more of those things. Well, good, you're the right place then, because that's what I'm going to talk about, those three things, faith, hope, and love, because I figure, from my experience, that's what we all need a bit more of. But I'm going to approach it in a way that you may find a little strange, and that's okay. So if you want to get quizzical and, you know, kind of go, what is she talking about? That will not throw me at all. Just be wherever you are with what I'm talking about. We're going to be talking about a word that I've coined called Strength Bank. I spell it together, has a capital B in the middle, and it is officially trademarked, Strength Bank. And what it is, as we discuss it today, it's the foundation for not just relationships in your lives, but for great relationships in your lives, greater relationships in your lives. How did I discover it? Let me probably be a good idea if I gave you just a little bit about my background, where I'm coming from, and I think it'll make better sense to you. I started my professional life as an educator. I taught English, speech, drama, and journalism, depending on the year. Therefore, I dealt with lots of teenagers and learned a great deal about aberrant behavior. Some of you have teenagers, don't you? I can see you nodding out there, yes. Or you have a niece or a nephew or a son or a daughter. So great learning ground, tremendous learning ground. But you know, I said, well, maybe there's something else for me. I figured I'd kind of gotten that one down after about 9 years. So I went out into corporate America. Decided I'd see what I'd do in corporate America, because I had gotten all my education to be a principal, really. I thought I was going to be a high school principal. But it was going to take years and years and years for the list, and I thought maybe I ought to go on out and see what else is going on. So I became a supervisor for a large nationwide insurance company. This was all in Houston, Texas. And I did that for a while, and I thought, you know, this isn't quite it either. So there was a job opportunity that came up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that's where my family is, most of my family. I have 3 nephews and brother and sister, mother and dad, and they were all kind of in that area, so I thought, great opportunity. Now, this job was to be a supervisor for a meat manufacturing firm. I know, I saw that look. Yes, M-E-A-T, meat. It was a subsidiary of Sara Lee Corporation. And I went around the country in those white coats, you know, and those white hard hats, and I went into franchise restaurants. We were the company that supplied fresh, never been frozen beef, to franchise restaurants like Steak and Ale, Boston Sea Party, Bennigan's, etc. And I went around to these restaurants in the attire I mentioned and looked in the refrigerators. Well, how's your meat quality today? Well, your fatty trim is a little off, you know. And after a while, that was a pretty cold job, and I thought, you know, there's just got to be something more. Well, at that time, the company began expanding its product line because red meat, as you know, became a little bit unpopular as a steady diet. So we got into pizza toppings. So we work with Pizza Hut, Pizza Inn, you know, the big pizza manufacturers, and then slurry products, comminuted products, you know, soups and chilies and cheese. So lots of research and lots of places to go to sell those wares, but something just wasn't quite there for me, although I did it and I did well. And remember that, because we're going to talk about that in a minute. It was just not, you know, something I got up every morning and go, yes, I'm going to meet sales. This is my day. You know, it just wasn't my thing. And so we had an opportunity as we opened a distributor branch of the company. We were going to start selling our products, frozen now, you know, but fast frozen, so the quality was not lost, into distributor branches. And the vice president of sales came in one day and he said, who in the sales group would like to give presentations to our new sales force that we will be acquiring during this merger and acquisition, who'd like to tell them how to sell our products? Well, my hand just went up almost involuntarily, because I love to give presentations. And you know what? When I began to learn what I hope to give you just a seed of at least tonight, is that I was in front of a group, I guess it was about this size, maybe a little larger, but not much, about this size group, and I was standing there in front of them talking about the carcass of an animal. And I was having a good time. And you know how the bill, I kind of went, ding, 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 ding. What is this? Well, I went back to the meat plant, and we went and finished all those presentations, and I went to my boss, Don, and I said, Don, what else can I do in this company that would be presentation-oriented? And he said, nothing. I said, oh. I said, you know, I really enjoyed doing those presentations. Now, remember this. He said, I noticed that. And I said, you know, Don, now I trusted Don. You'll see why I make clear that I really did trust him at that point. And I said, Don, you know what I think I'm going to do? And this was January of 1984. And I said, Don, what I think I'm going to do is start my own speaking company. I said, I'm going to wait about 6 months. Now, I was loose on that time frame. I didn't give it a date. I said, in about 6 months, get my funds together, you know. And then I'm just going to start working on a speaking career by taking my real estate license. If you've been a teacher or you know a teacher, most of us have a real estate license. And I thought, well, I'll, you know, take that to feed myself and just start giving speeches, because you don't just go be a speaker in a corporation. Now, here he said this. He said, I could see you doing that. I thought, wow. This was January, the months rolled along. July 3rd, believe me, I know that day exactly, at 8:15 p.m. in the morning, a.m. in the morning, he said, I came into work, and he said, Sandra, you no longer have a job here. In other words, yes, as I stand before you, I have been fired. I have been downsized, restructured, whatever you want to call it. And I was relieved. And you know what else? I was fired in love. And really, that's what I wish for each of you. You may be the one that has to do it for yourself, or it may be done for you, but I want you to understand what I mean by that. When Don fired me in love, it was because of those two comments I kind of highlighted to you a moment ago. He said, I've noticed you enjoyed this, and I could see you doing this. So when he fired me, he handed me a sheet of contact photos that we had taken at a recent distributor sales, one of the last ones that we did. I thought they were taking them for the company newsletter. You know, what did I know? And he said, here, Sandra, you need to do this. You know, for me, I hope it's not that way for you, but as I've grown older, I've realized, I think it's that way with a lot of us. The Lord has to do this. You know, 2 before, between the eyes, it's like, oh, duh, you know. Because I remember walking out that door, and all I felt was relief. And that's not the way you're supposed to feel when you're fired. And I remember walking out that door, and I could not even put a pen in my hand and fill out a job application. In fact, my father said, well, now, darling, don't you think you ought to, you know, start filling out your applications, you know? No. And I said, Dad, I just can't. But fortunately, I have the kind of father who listens to me. At that time, anyway, he did. And he said, okay, what do you want to do? And I said, well, Dad, here's the plan. Well, that was 11 years ago, and I'm still doing it. But in the process of learning how that could happen, I want that for everybody. That's my mission, that everybody is in what I now call their strength bank, doing what you love to do. And what is Strength Bank? It's the God-given talents you already have. It was pre-designed when you came here. I mean, it's not even something you have to earn. It's a part of you. You have a choice. Unwrap the package or don't unwrap the package. I got so frustrated, I was really frustrated into unwrapping the package, and I think in many cases that's what happens. But that's what needs to happen. Now, the way it happened for me is I walked out of that door, and I started, now here's a clue to finding your strength bank. People who love to do what you love to do, no matter how strange the fantasy may seem, probably have a professional organization someplace where they meet once a month and talk about doing it. So I started going to professional speakers meetings. I thought, well, let me see how these people did it. The more I found out how they did it, the more I could see real estate was going to be a short-term career for me. And it's really funny. When I walked in the first time to that first speakers meeting, I felt at home. Those people were just as weird as I was. You know what I'm saying? You know? There wasn't the stress, there wasn't the conflict. And then I began realizing everybody comes up from a different way, but everybody has a little different skill in this thing to bring to the platform. But it doesn't matter, because we need all of it. So that was where I started. And I sold real estate. I started just speaking wherever I could speak. Well, at one of those meetings, now hear this clearly, here's another clue to finding your strength bank. Be open to the network. That people who love what you do are in. Be open to talking to them. Don't just go to the meeting and sit there, well, I didn't get anything, or, you know, oh, well, that was pretty good. It's the people there. It's the network. It's those new relationships that are going to be instrumental. And in fact, I remember Hattie came up to me at the break. We were drinking coffee. I didn't know her. I said, hi, my name is Sandra Shelton. She said, my name's Hattie. We went on talking, and she said, I've just started working for a public seminar company. I said, really, what's that? 6 months later, guess what? I was working for that public seminar company, and that was my leverage out of real estate. And I'll never forget Mike telling me in real estate, the other thing that gave me, are you hearing me talk about mentors? Are you seeing the place of mentors? People can be instrumental in your life. You have to know you first, but don't discount. People tell you things sometimes you discount. Mike said to me at one point, right before I met Hattie, now watch this timing, right before I met her, he said, Sandra, when are you going to quit using real estate as an excuse for not being a full-time speaker? And I said to myself, and when am I going to stop using speaking as an excuse for not being one of the top echelon real estate producers? Interesting. And because of some comments like that, I finally said, okay, it's now or never. And that was when I met Hattie. And it got me on the public platform all over the world, 14 countries, 11 years, 90,000 people plus. And I'm having more fun than anybody else has a right to. But I want that for you. Now you're saying, well, she could do that. I mean, you know, after all. But I don't, that's not my, listen, here's where we miss it. Every person, and I've looked you over very carefully, every person in this room came with a God-given bank of strengths, just waiting to be opened and used at the highest levels, at unlimited levels. And he's already the giver of that strength bank. God, the creator of the universe, gave you that strength bank when you were born. You didn't have to ask for it. You didn't have to beg for it. You came with it, and he started revealing it to you from your earliest years. Say, huh? From your earliest years. Now I want you to take about a 7-minute trip here in your mind. Go back to elementary school. Go way back there. Remember elementary? Okay, in elementary school, do you remember the thing that you liked best? What was the thing you liked best? What was the most fun at elementary? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Your best time of the day was, you can say it, recess. Bingo. Do you know that no matter what country, no matter what audience, that's what everybody says, and you know why? Well, see, I didn't know why at first, but I kept thinking, that's the same answer. There's got to be something there. And because I'm kind of a curious person, I kept noodling around with it and thinking about it. Finally, it dawned on me. It's the power of likes coming together with choices. The power is in likes and choices. If you choose, for example, to use your strengths, you'll like what you're doing. If you decide you don't have any, or they're not good enough, or let somebody talk you out of them, well, you never get that power. So, for example, in elementary, when recess came along, what was it that you looked forward to? For example, if you were me, I looked forward to Miss Yates maybe nodding to me as everybody was lining up, you know, and kind of nodding like I could go in the art room. And my favorite thing at recess was not to go outside and play. It was to go in the art room and just kind of play with stuff by myself. Oh, Sandra, does that mean you're a loner? I don't know. You can call it whatever you want. I just know what worked for me. I know what I look forward to. And if you were my sister, I have a sister 22 months younger than I, and she liked to go, still does, love outdoors, and liked to beat everybody she could at tether. You know, that tether ball where you, around the pole, I mean, she was the queen of the tether ball, you know. If you were my brother, who's about 3 years older than I am, if you were my brother, you went out and you ran sprints, or you got on the monkey bars and did all these gyrations. He liked to do geometric figures, and you know. What was it for you? You see, that was the first little inkling, because you got to choose what you did at recess. But what was the rest of your day like? See, think about it. Why was that the first memory? Because the rest of your day was very organized, if you'll remember. Remember, you had to hold your hand up even to what? Go to the bathroom, right, you know. And boy, you know, if they didn't see your hand soon enough, we had a problem because you weren't going to move. Lining up. Remember the subjects in elementary maybe that you liked the best? Do you remember teachers' names? See, I remember Miss Ritchie because she taught music. I remember Miss Brown because she taught literature. And of course, I remember Miss Yates because she taught art. Don't ask me about math and science. Please don't. I'm sure they were good people. To me, they're just shadows, you know. See, your preferences are starting to be revealed in your very earliest years. For some of you, you'd be saying just the opposite. You remember your first science fair project. You remember your math teacher so well. Some of you say, oh, I remember those little plays we used to do. In fact, I remember one of the things I remember early about my father being, my daddy being instrumental in showing me what my gifts were, in helping me pull them forward, is that Daddy'd always say, well, honey, you be the narrator. Tell him you'll be the narrator. And I was like, okay, I'll narrate. Loved it, because I'm loud, you know. It got me in trouble a few times, too. But we won't talk about that. You know, it can get you in trouble, too. But see, it's those things, it's those guides. Now move up a little bit. We're out of elementary. Move into junior high. Now watch choices in junior high and likes. Because in junior high now, the curriculum day allows you perhaps one choice. You can choose what you want to study for an hour. Remember that? And you probably had a choice like art or PE or band or maybe drama or maybe dance, something like that. Well, I remember choosing band, and I played the flute. Now, why I really remember that is because my nephew, Ryan, who's 15, almost 16, reminds me of that song, 15, go, well, anyway, he chose band. And when he called me at 13, he says, oh, Aunt Sandra, I chose band too. And I said, well, honey, what'd you choose? Now, I expected him to say a woodwind of some sort. I mean, after all, I was in the flute family, correct? You know, clarinet, woodwind, oboe. No, I chose the tuba. And you know, what started coming to me is he looks like a tuba player. He does. Stocky, big lips, you know, and now he's in the marching band with the sousaphone. That's what they march with. And he's just wonderful. You know, not only do you have a strength bank, but everything about you is designed to use it. Think how horrible it would be to go through your whole life and never use your strength bank and just keep doing everybody else's or what everybody else says. You're not designed to do that. Doesn't mean you can't make a stab at it. But at what cost? At what stress level? See, one of the reasons Don said, I noticed you liked giving those presentations was because he saw me having fun. See, I was doing something I liked to do. Never discount what time flies, what you're doing when time flies. Pay attention to those things. But you're saying, oh, Sandra, you just don't know what I really love to do. I never could make a living at. Now let's get real serious. Your gift, your strength bank is perfectly, hear that word, perfectly designed. A perfect design works. It's perfectly designed, now get this, for a need that's already in the world. See, God's no dummy. It can amaze you. People think, well, he wouldn't have figured that out. Excuse me, God never says, oops, oh, I forgot, you know. Excuse me. It's perfectly designed for a need just waiting to be filled. You open your strength bank, match it to that need, and you know you have because you enjoy it. Now, how can it be any simpler, folks? Why do people say life's tough? It's difficult. Come on. You have the benchmarks in you. You know. And you'll have, when you make that match, you'll have all the money you ever need. I didn't say want. I said need. If you'd asked me when I was a little girl, Sandra, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I'd have said, well, I just kind of want to, you know, go around and talk to people about stuff. You'd have thought, poor kid. Let me ask you a question. What have I done for the last 11 years? Gone around and what? Talk to people about stuff. But you can't make a living at that. Well, obviously, I'm alive. I must be eating. I've eaten the putty out of the windows a few times, don't get me wrong. But you see, if you love what you're doing, you will go through the process. You will go through the crucible, and it's a not stress crucible. See, that crucible, that stress crucible, is a crucible that when, for example, you're trying to hammer a nail with the shoe of a foot and not a hammer because you just don't want to pick up the hammer. Some of us go through our whole lives that way. What happens, guys, when you hammer a nail with the shoe of a foot? I mean, shoe of a foot. Did I say shoe of the foot? A shoe, a heel. Thank you very much. A heel of a shoe. You take the heel of a shoe. You try to nail a nail. It might go in, but what's going to happen to the shoe? It's going to wear out. That's what you do with your lives when you're not in your strengths. Stress, headaches, hives. See, I learned early on, too, what I shouldn't do. My first job was a J.C. Penney counter selling candy. Now, it wasn't the candy I minded. But you may have gotten a hint a while ago that math isn't my big deal. You know, it just doesn't work well for me, right? So one day I broke out in full-body hives behind the candy counter. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Would you buy candy from a woman broken out in hives? I don't think so. They sent me home. Now, why did I break out in hives? Why do you think I broke out in hives, selling candy behind that candy counter? Why? I got frustrated. Didn't like it. Because I can't make change easily. I can't tell you how many times my mother sat with me. Now, Sandra, here's how you can. But my mind doesn't work well that way. I need someone else. You see, your strength bank is also your relationship toolkit. Because you see, what you're strong in means you're going to have weaknesses. It's designed that way so you'll need other people. So life is a process of hooking up with not someone just like you, and that's what we all try to do, and we think, why doesn't this work? Why did that? Well, because now you've just got more of this and none of this over here. First person I ever hired was a marketing person. Duh. You know, so we were both, oh, let's do this, we'll be creative, oh yes, whoa, big. We didn't know where the checkbook was, and pretty soon there wasn't anything in it, because we were just, oh, well, we got money, don't we? I don't know, we'll balance it in a couple of months, you know. I needed someone who really had those math skills and detail and wouldn't let things fall through the cracks. I needed someone with a combination that could see both. Basically, that's what Barbara, who came with me tonight, is. She really does see both. She taught me to look at the gas pumps and note that some gas stations charge more than others. You know, I'd never noticed that. See what I mean? See, that's what great relationships are about. You know their strength bank and tell them about it, and they see yours, and we glorify our strength banks, i.e. the giver of them, by using them to higher and higher levels, not by being jealous. See, it's very difficult to be jealous of somebody else's strength bank when you're loving yours. Very difficult. It's very difficult to carry around anger. It's very difficult to do anything except be excited when you're in your strength bank. Because remember, it's the thing you love to do. It's the thing that you get enthusiastic about. It's the thing that your energy comes from. It's the thing that when you're doing it, time just, like when we finish here in a little while, it'll be like, wait, we just got started. You know, Barbara's giving me cues, but my goodness, to me, it's like, what? I thought I'd only been talking about 3 minutes. And I talk fast, would you agree? But as I went around corporate America in all the countries and started talking about things like management and leadership and image and dealing with difficult people and protocol and yada, 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 that's what I began to discover, is that you really can't hear me until you understand where you are in your strength bank. See, I can come into your company and I can talk all day long about how to give better customer service, but if you're sitting there not in your strength bank, it's going right over your head. And I think where we really started doing that to you was in high school. When we started giving you choices in high school, move on up a little bit, we were at junior high, move on up to high school. In high school, when we started giving you curriculum choices, we stopped saying, well, what would you just like to do, like to try? Now in high school, it got a little more serious. We said, your teachers and your counselors and your friends said, well, choose something with a view of what you're going to, what? Be doing for the rest of your life, make a living. In other words, that thing called money. Do it for money, folks. Doesn't work. Why do you think I was at a meat company going in refrigerators? Why do you think I was? Corporate America, early 80s, a woman, da-da-da-da-da, hot stuff, there I was, you know, corporate America. I was miserable. I took Donatol all the time. Donatol is a stomach settler that eventually you can have colon trouble or ulcers, and I just thought it was normal. In fact, my dad said, well, honey, that's just normal. That's just the way the corporate world is. Just keep some Maalox or, you know, some Gelucel or something just to chew. I thought that was normal. Our bodies weren't made to be that way. Our bodies were made to be using our strength bank and being excited and enjoy. That's the kind of stress that produces health, not headaches. Since I started speaking, and I mean it seriously, man, I've made all the mistakes. I've been to the pits so many times. That's how I figured out how to maybe put the iridescent paint on the steps so I could get out faster. And part of the iridescent paint is strength bank. But I'll tell you this, I wouldn't do anything else. I couldn't, I just couldn't. Now that I've seen the light, that's where I want you. That's where I want you. And you already know. I can see it in your faces. And you're saying to me, you're starting that doubt thing. Listen, let me tell you what doubt is. Doubt is the deceiver's way of throwing you off track. Don't succumb. People that are negative about what you do, stay away from them until you get it rolling, and then just try to help them see theirs. There's some folks that never will honor your strength back. I just had a very heartbreaking separation from a fellow speaker that I'd known for years because she heard me give strength bank. I talked to her about it for years. I thought she understood it. And I started giving it to her, and we all got excited, and we were on the same program, and the evaluations came in. We were both on the same program, and everybody said, oh, what we really loved was strength banking. So she chose to hate me. Listen, strength bank is sometimes a sword, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. There are ears that can hear, there are those that can't. You understand. You get around those that can support, and that you can support theirs. See, it's a reciprocal thing. That's what relationships are supposed to be about, that we enjoy each other, that we glory in each other's coming forward and growing more. But you know, as singles, we get out there and we think, well, I'll do that maybe later, but right now I'm kind of a reject. You know, I'm single or re-singled, as I am. That has nothing to do with it. When I named my company Exuberantly Single, I don't know how many people say to me, well, Sandra, what are you going to do if you get married, remarried? And I said, nothing, go right on. Because you see, you know what exuberantly single is? A reminder that we're all singly accountable for using that strength bank. And I don't care what worldly configuration you're in, you don't get past that accountability, friend. You just don't. And why not do something that literally takes you beyond the limits of anything else you'd have thought to do because your desire is so strong? Let me tell you, when I was fired and I walked out of that door and I said, I'm going to do real estate. Now, you understand, I should say this, the only reason I did real estate is because TI had come out with that calculator that you could just push buttons. Trust me, if it had still been pen and paper, honey, I'd have found some other way. But I knew it was short term, and I didn't like real estate, not because I didn't like the people, not because I didn't like the job, because it wasn't fit for me, but I knew it was a means to an end. Sometimes we have to do a means to an end, but what makes you do that? Constant input. Constant input from you trying things in your strength bank. Folks, do not think, well, I don't want to do that unless I get paid. United Way, for example, comes around in every state, and I've just hooked up with them. We hope for a long-term relationship with Strength Bank. It's just so exciting. But it dawned on me, you know, when United Way comes around to your company, let's say that you're sitting in your job. Now, I'm assuming, I may be making a dangerous assumption. Is there anyone here that, doesn't get up in the morning and go, yes, I get to go to work? Is that the way you go? That's not the way you go to work here? Oh, well then, this is even more important. If you're not that way every morning, why not, when United Way comes around, why don't you volunteer to do something you just kind of like to do that maybe has nothing to do with your job now? What might you find out? Wow. I remember doing it at the insurance company, doing a good hands speech. We were the good hands people. And I said, well, I'll do that. Volunteer. Remember I told you I volunteered to give the sales? Listen, volunteer for something that'll stretch you, but you just kind of like to, that you're not good at. You can't be good at it till you do it. And let me tell you, when you're in a strength bank, even though you stumble, it gives you a creative idea to do something next in it. You'll go further. But when you're not in your strength bank, like I learned to balance my checkbook, and that's as far as I want to go in accounting. That's it. That is the end. I don't want to go any further, you know? But when I'm giving speeches, I mean, I had what I wanted to say here. I'm kind of saying it, you know? But I give it different every time because it grows. Yours does too. Unless, of course, you keep it tied up. You want more faith in yourself? Connect correctly. Connect to your strength bank with the giver of that strength bank. That's the faith connection. That's where you go through life confident. That's where you become everybody else's light, because you are a light yourself. Doesn't mean you're perfect, but it means you can. You can. And you know what? You become a magnet to all the great relationships that are designed. You know, I told you your bodies are designed, your height is designed, you're male or female. All these things are designed for your strength bank. Well, every relationship that's going to be best for you is also pre-designed if you just be the magnet. Otherwise, folks, they miss it. People get married and they're not looking at their strength bank first. Now, let me tell you how I know that one. I married in lust. Well, that's how I know. Okay, now we've got that. But we didn't, strength bank, we didn't talk about what we want. We were just like, you know, and lust lasts 24 months for men, 24 months for women, 18 for men. Folks, at 2.5 years, I remember going, I used to really get excited that man came around. And I'm like now almost repulsed. And all of a sudden, he realized he had no desire to go any direction I was growing. And I had no desire to come home and watch TV, and that's it, you know, for the rest of my life. I did a literary magazine, you know, no. And he wanted to do some recruiting things. I was like, what? See, we got to make better beginnings in all our relationships. If you're single, understand you're single for a reason. You're single for a reason. You are, so you are. Now make a better beginning. Get your strength bank in place so your relationships get to be the right one. So if marriage or remarriage is in the picture for you, you get a better start at it. You have a better chance of once in a lifetime. What happened to once in a lifetime marriages? We started starting them with the wrong thing. We forgot strength bank. We did things for money. We did things for prestige, for what a woman or a man should be doing at this age in their life. I also married at 29 because I was going to be 30. See, in lust at 29 because you're going to be 30. Hey, doomed to failure. Faith comes from that strength bank. Now, hope, second point, you said you wanted more hope in your life. Hopefully, I've already started on that direction. Let me tell you something. If you use your strength bank, you know what's going to happen? Exceedingly, abundantly above anything you could ever think of out of your strength bank. You can't even believe what happens when you're doing what you were designed to do. It is, I'll give you one, I have a million, but I'll give you one small story. I have naturally curly hair. Some of you that have naturally curly hair know that in the 60s, you probably did what I did. If you were in the 60s and alive, you ironed it. And you used orange cans, and you tried to straighten it. Yes, I'm seeing some looks, we know what that is. And on rainy days, it frizzes, and it just drives you nuts. Fortunately, now it's okay. But I was struggling with it. And I was going to a beautician for reasons other than whether they could really work with my hair. It was the she beautician, you know, in Dallas, and it was like everybody went there, but I was looking pretty bad. One day I was just driving down in my little hometown, Hurst, Euless, Bedford, between Dallas and Fort Worth, and I saw this beauty shop. And I thought, I just felt impressed to walk in there, and I walked in that beauty shop, and I said, is there anybody in here that knows anything about naturally curly hair? And the woman at front, because I was kind of direct, she says, well, we have a beautician who has it. I said, is it long? You know, because they kept cutting my hair really short, you know, and for me, with my big fat face, anyway. So I said, can I meet her? And I will never forget. I walked back, and she was doing nails at the time, and I walked back, and I said, hello, and she looked up. I said, are you Barbara? And she said, yeah. And I said, can you make my hair look like yours? She says, yeah. I said, okay, I'll be here next week. Now, why was that important? That was right before I began moving in a whole different direction in my business. I began moving from the corporate platform into a more of a media platform. Now, isn't that interesting? And you know what most of the comments I got were? It's so great that somebody with naturally curly hair just lets it be what it is. Now, folks, I couldn't have planned that. I couldn't have even thought of it. I didn't even know it was possible, but I had confidence. I knew that something wasn't right about how I was with what my next step was supposed to be. Now, do you think that's just for me, Sandra Ann Shelton? I'm the only one that could ever live that way? Absolutely not. You're sitting in front of me. You have that same possibility. Are you going to get in your strength bank so that you can have that kind of hope for the future? Folks, I don't know where the future's going to take me, but it's so exciting. I wake up every morning going, whoa, doggies, what now? I want that for you. I want that for you. But you've got to make a choice. You've got to make a choice to stop listening to people say, well, you can't make a living doing that. Well, that's kind of silly. Just do it as a hobby. Or, well, you'd never be a pro at that. You don't have the education. Let me tell you something. The only education you need to start with is your strength bank. The rest is a moot point. Speaking of education, I used to think, well, to be a speaker on a corporate platform, I'm going to have to know everything there is to know. And I was privileged when I was with the National Career, Public Seminar Company to work with one of the top excellence gurus. Yes! So I got all these magazines, and I started taking all these magazines. Folks, you can't read but so many magazines a day, let me tell you. You just can't, but I got a lot of snooze time out of trying, And the stacks got higher and higher, and then I got stressed, and I thought, wait, this isn't right. So I just said, okay, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to say that I'm going to quit taking all these. Number one, I was running out of money. And number two, I know when the right information comes around, if I'm in my strength bank, my head's going to be clear and I'm going to see it. And that's what I started doing. And I could tell you a million stories about how I just saw a news story, just happened to look at it that fit right into what I was going to say to the next audience. Or I just happened to read an article that got me on a TV show because I happened to be going to be in Orlando at that time and I hadn't put it together, but just happened to almost as I was throwing it away, open the page. That's hope, folks. I don't have any fear of the future. None. I may get a little skinnier, miss a few meals, because I'm not real good on the money, and you're hearing that? I make a lot of mistakes there. But I have confidence because I couldn't do anything else but this. You couldn't offer me anything else but this. And now it's growing this whole other way. And we're here tonight talking about it. Whoa, can you believe that? Where are you going to be a year from now? Well, I'll probably still be working for so-and-so. I don't like him much, but I got to eat. Man, get away from people that say that to you every day. I've heard, well, Sandra Ann, you got to eat. Not 3 months ago, this best friend that now, she said, Sandra, things are getting tough. I said, yeah, but look at all these potential. Look at all, this was before all the other stuff I told you. I opened the magazine and ended up in the same city. I know I'm running, but she said, well, why don't you just go get a job someplace? You got to eat. In my heart of hearts, I knew then our relationship wasn't where it needed to be. I knew. I just wanted to hang on. Do you do that? Just think if I hang on, it'll get better. Not unless you're both in your strength bank. Not unless you're both surrendered to following the guide of the connector. It just won't. And I thought to myself, those were such foreign words. So I ran it by Barbara. And when I said it, you should have seen her eyes. She just went, huh? Where's that coming from? That's all I needed. You got to have the right relationships. They've got to be great relationships, but they've got to be based with the right thing. Both of you in confidence, both of you with hope for the future, both of you having the best time watching each other soar with the eagles. Then you get the third thing, don't you? More love. Reminds me of that song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. That's the only thing. You think I'm going to sing the whole thing, don't you? No. Sure it is. I didn't say lust, I said love. See, love is what you get when you're in the process of living in your strength bank. And what does it do for you? What does that kind of love do? That love that gave you that perfect, pre-designed gift, if you'll connect in that direction, it illumines your mind. It allows you to think of things you never would have thought of before. I mean, just like I was telling you about picking up information. Some of the things I thought of, I would never have thought of them had I been in a company doing a job waiting until somebody asked me to be a full-time speaker. It wouldn't have happened. When you're living in love, i.e. in your strength bank, with hope for the future, you have an energized body. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Do I appear to you to be someone with energy or without energy? Did you notice that at the beginning, I was kind of, hello, how are you? But you notice as we go on, do you notice what happens? Happens every time. What's happening? Higher and higher, swifter, higher, stronger. The Olympics were this summer. I always think that. You can't help but be energized when you're in your strength bank. That's the kind of love that I'm talking about. It's energizing love. Those people that honor your strength bank give you energy, and you give it back, and all of a sudden y'all are like talking for hours, like, oh my goodness, we forgot to have dinner, or whatever, because it's so much fun. Energy comes from doing things in love, literally. It quickens your emotions. Living in that kind of love quickens your emotions to laughter. You laugh more. We don't laugh enough. Sometimes we think, I know in corporate America, a lot of times we go in, and I talk to financial people, isn't that a hoot? You know, and they'll bring me in to talk about financial things. I just was in one in Irving this summer, and I just love it because I just blow them away, you know, and I just make them laugh and giggle, and they're like, oh, my word, because I'm just not going to cut. Now, here's what we're going to do. Step 1, step 2, and let's follow all the protocol, please. Let me tell you something. There isn't anybody that doesn't love to laugh. But it's real hard. Do you know when it's hard for you to laugh? When you're struggling with what you're having to do. When every day you go home from work and it's like, oh, well, at least I made some money today. I'm so exhausted. When's the next vacation? You know, it's very hard to laugh when it just seems like, why are people so strange? What is it, a zoo out there? What? What's the problem with everybody? Why do they treat me that way? Isn't it kind of hard to laugh? All of it's based one place. It's real hard to laugh if you aren't living in love. And you can't be living in love unless you have opened that package and you have it full blown. The last thing that love gives you, this kind of love, is it enables you to make the right decisions. You start making strength bank growth decisions rather than all the, well, let's see, what should goals of a typical 45-year-old be? I'm 49, so that's close to my heart. Almost 50. You know, what should the goals be of a 17-year-old? Heard this, I was a guest on one of the national talk shows as to be a singles relationship expert, and I thought, well, this will be a kick. See what I mean? I'd have never thought of that, right? And one of the things they said, one of the participants in the audience, as one of the comments said, well, after all, these 20-year-olds who were doing all sorts of things, long-distance lovers was the subject. I'll let your imagination roll. And they said, well, you know, they're really doing the thing that 20-year-olds are supposed to be doing, experimenting, finding out, you know, seeking out mate to mate, you know, no. Well, of course, I came back with a little different story, but I was sitting there thinking, that's what we do. We tell people because they're such an age, this is what they should be doing. Because they're single, they should be married. I mean, that's just a given. I mean, people walk up to you, if you're single or re-single, and say, oh, bless your heart, like it's, you poor thing. You know, I don't get that much anymore. Guess why? See, your strength bank covers that. It makes your conversations better. That's why the relationships get better. And people stop leading with questions about your singleness. See, if everybody talks to you about your singles, I'm going to say this to you, you're leading with it. That's why. Quit leading with that. Lead with your strength bank. I mean, you don't go up to married people, do you, and say, hey, so why are you married? When people come up to me and they say, well, so why are you single, which really is rare anymore, I just say, well, I don't know, but you know what? I just gave a speed, da-da-da-da-da, and I just go into I turn the conversation and I say, what is it that you get really excited about? Man, the relationship changes, and I may never see that person again. See, I've learned great relationships come in nanoseconds once you're in your strength bank. See, your strength bank makes level feet, level paths for your feet. Ever heard that? That's what it is. It's so that when things come around, circumstances, my father is having a series of strokes now, and I know what that means, and I love my daddy. But you know what? You know what keeps me level? You know what brought me here? You know why I'll keep going? Because I'm tuned in to perfect love. And it gets you past all that could sidetrack you. It's very hard to be sidetracked into depression and loneliness. That's the other one, loneliness. Aren't you lonely as a single? How in the world can you be lonely when you're having this much fun? You know, it just amazes me. Loneliness is a state of mind. It's an attitude. Singleness isn't even the issue. Marriedness isn't the issue. The issue is, have you opened your strength bank? Are you using it? Is it growing? Are you showing others what theirs are? Are we having a good time? You want more faith? Tune in to Strength Bank, to the giver who gave it to you. It's perfectly designed. You want more hope to be able to do things for the rest of your life that are fun, not just for a while, there's never a status quo? Tune into your Strength Bank. You want to live in real love all the time and has nothing to do with being married or not being married? Tune into your Strength Bank and the giver of that Strength Bank. You see, we are what our Strength Bank makes us. We become what we're willing to give back of it. I wish you love, faith, hope, joy, but most of all, I wish you to make that one choice that says, you know what? She's right. I'm going to think about it. I know I got a Strength Bank.
After being introduced to Strength Bank and understanding a little bit more about how it works with the students in the high school, I just thought it was important that I get other business leaders in the community involved in this program, because children are our future. We always say that, but then we never know how to give back and actually help those children. And this was an opportunity to do that. So I thought it was really important to talk to other business leaders and business people, to bring them in, to show them how they too can be involved in affecting a child's life for the better and helping them to grow and better themselves.